For this next tutorial segment, we're going to re-enter the crop acreage crop insurance tab. And this time we're going to address crop insurance selections. A few caveats up front. Our application, for simplicity, ease of use, limits some certain choices for the farmer. We provide choices for all of the most commonly selected programs, but we don't offer every RMA Risk Management Agency program available. We also limit the farmer to the selection of enterprise units, enterprise unit structure, and don't currently support optional units, basic or whole farm units. So when a farmer goes in to select crop insurance, these are enterprise units, and they'll see the most commonly selected programs for farmers across the country. To show you the options that are available, let's go into the winter wheat column. And I do that because this farmer planted that wheat crop last fall and therefore had to make the crop insurance decisions last fall. What we're going to do is go into the wheat, and this will show you our options that are available to us. So we scroll down to crop insurance choices, and here are the choices, and will be true of each of our crops. The farmer will first have an option to choose county-based policies or farm-based policies. County-based policies were very commonly used going back 15-20 years. As farm-based policies became more available and prevalent, farmers have generally gravitated to policies that are designed around indemnification against their own farm's benchmarks. If there's a shortfall at the farm level, then the farm would receive an indemnity payment, as opposed to county policies in which if the county were to fall short of benchmarks, then there might be an indemnity payment based on that county shortfall. Most farmers have gravitated towards farm-based policies, and for our purposes of wheat, we'll select that policy. Next, that coverage type. Next up will be product types. And here you'll see the three large categories, standard categories of crop insurance protection: revenue protection with harvest price exclusion, and yield protection. Each of those has their own payout structure related to indemnity payout structure and have different premiums associated with them. And your crop insurer can explain those various options to you. Most farmers today select revenue protection policies, or RP, and we'll do that for our wheat crop. Next, the farmer can select a base coverage level. And for revenue protection policies, for farm-based policies, I should say, the farmer can choose policy protection from the 50% level up to the 85% level. Many farmers are in the 75 to 85% range for their crops, and for purposes of this Madison County farm, we'll select an 80% policy for wheat. Then I want to address these SCO and ECO options that are available to the farmer. For those who don't know what those are, I'll explain briefly. These are supplemental programs that can stack on top of a farm-based policy. The farmer can add SCO, which takes coverage from whatever the selected level is, in this case 80, up to 86%, and then to the extent they select an ECO policy, the ECO adds additional coverage from the 86% level to either the choice of 90 or 95. We're not going to select either of these for the time being, but just so you understand how that works, these county-based supplemental policies stack on top of an underlying farm-based policy, and they follow the same indemnity payment structures as the underlying farm-based policy. For example, in our case, our underlying farm-based policy is a revenue protection policy. If we were to select SCO and ECO or ECO, they would follow that same RP policy structure. If the underlying farm-based policy selection were, for example, revenue protection with harvest price exclusion, then the SCO and ECO would also follow that revenue protection with harvest price exclusion policy structure. I'll mention this, doesn't apply to us here, but had we selected a county-based policy, there's the farmer would be presented an option to select a payment factor for that county-based policy, which ranges from 80 to 120%. And effectively, this protection factor simply scales both the premiums, so the cost of the insurance, as well as the indemnities, up or down based upon that factor. Again, this only applies if the farmer has selected a county-based policy. We're going to select an 80% policy for wheat. We would have done this last fall, which we have here in place. Hit update. And you can see our assumption types have all come in here. Farm, revenue protection, 80% policy. And for the moment, we're going to leave our corn and beans, both full seasons and DC beans, with no crop insurance. We're going to leave that blank for the moment, and we're going to come back to it a little bit later to add that coverage a little later on as we're starting to think about the risk profile for the farm. So that concludes this segment. Next, we'll talk about selecting these benchmark budgets, but we'll do that in the next video segment. Back to the dashboard, and we'll end this video and pick up with the next one.